Louis, it's good having you here.
Yeah, very nice to
Good seeing you again, sir. So we were kind of briefly having conversations out there about the program, your experiences in it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it. Tell us what you're thinking so far.
Honestly, this program is God sent. I said it out there. I'll say it anywhere. I'll speak very highly about this program even after I graduate, gratefully and hopefully. Where I was at in my life, it's kind of funny because I got the paper for this program while I was in jail. So I was in jail in Lindsay, and I had a video conference with my lawyer. So he's like, the only way you're going to get out on bail with the charges that you have is if you have a very strong plan, like a bail plan. So he was like, he has this rehabilitation center that he can send me to, and then on top of that, he had a work program that he'd heard and was speaking very highly of. So at the time, my mental state, I wasn't really taking heed to exactly what he was saying, but as soon as I got bail with that plan, he gave me the paper, and it was Oaks Revitalization Association. So I had to take care of some other things before I could call you guys, but that was around September when I got out of jail. I went to a halfway house for a month in Bowmanville from October to November, end of November. And as soon as I got out, I called Kayla, so that was my first interaction with you guys. And literally a very riveting conversation. I don't know how long we were on the phone for, but it was really riveting. And just her vibe was so genuine and authentic to me, especially like I said, I was just out of prison. I was just in a halfway house. So to be able to hear someone actually care about me, and they don't even know me, they never met me yet, and and just be speaking positive to me on the phone was just like, okay, I definitely want to get into this program. And I think one of the first questions I asked her was like, oh, how much does it cost? And then she's like, it's free, but there's a whole interview process. I was like, dog, I have to pass the interview, of the prime candidate, you know what I mean? But yeah, my fingers were crossed, and I said, I was on house arrest, so I was going through a lot of mental turmoil, and I will not lie to you, this was literally the life raft to save my life, because I was drowning a lot, and it wasn't just so much so that I didn't know where I was gonna go, but I didn't have any good options, and I knew if I went back to jail for the time that they wanted me to go, I was going to become conditioned to a lifestyle that I would never be able to get out of, because I was already on that tipping point, and this was my wake-up call. But it was more so, I was like, okay, if you're waking me up, where do you want me to go now? If I'm supposed to change paths, what am I supposed to do? And just as I got to that point, boom, you guys were there. So for anybody who feels like there isn't good in the world, there is, and it's right here at the ORA. So for me personally, I really appreciate this program. I can't speak any more highly of this program than I already have, but genuinely and honestly, for the community of Toronto, for the GTA, you guys are doing God's work. And you don't have to believe in God, you don't have to believe in divine power, but there are people out there who have principles that they hold higher than themselves. And in a world where it's very selfish, it's so refreshing to see somebody not only give you a plan, but say I'm going to walk with you so you can accomplish this plan, because a lot of people will give you advice. You could go on YouTube, you can get hours of advice, but how many people are going to not only style the plan to your individualistic needs, but make sure that you understand why things are happening? Because a lot of times you just do things because you're told to do it. But here, we're learning not only the actions to carry out, but the mentality behind the actions, the why, and that reasoning alone for example, for me, for my demographic, for black males, a lot of times we don't have a good why. A lot of times we're impulsive and we just do things off rip, You offend me, I shoot you. That's the way we were raised. Is it a good way? No. So for people to take their time to teach adults who should have already learned these lessons, and you're doing it for free, you guys are doing, you guys are undoing years of just poor mental conditioning, and it starts with just the one individual, because that one person you touch is going to touch 10. So the ORA may only deal with 12 people at a time, but those 12 people are impacting maybe 120 people. So you guys are doing something right now that they're going to look back on years from now, and they're going to try to emulate this formula, but it's not a formula. It's genuine. So I don't know, this is one in a million. If you do get the opportunity to be here, I suggest you take it very seriously. And it is good that it's tailored to the people that you are working with, because a lot of us, society's already given up on us. So it's either we do this or it's back to the streets, right? So
What was life prior to incarceration? So what was life on the streets like when your all the activities that you're doing, whether or not so good? Tell us about what you were going through and what you did.
I was heavily involved in selling drugs, not on a small scale. I was running quite a large operation in tandem with a bunch of other individuals. The position that I was in is akin to a manager. So I was the overlooker or supervisor, if you want to look, for a whole bunch of people. So I had to make sure things ran smoothly. I had to make sure things ran efficiently, and I had to be the problem solver for a lot of different situations. So my experience with the streets is raw and as real as it gets. You know, I lost homies to homicides. I've lost people to overdoses. You know what I mean? I've lost people to suicides. But in terms of what I was doing in the streets, I wasn't contributing to the betterment of society. I could put it as simply as that, you know? I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. I sold crack to pregnant women, you know? I've watched mothers take their last dollar, and instead of buying groceries, you know, they're gonna buy cocaine. And I watched that, and truth be told, I'm not a good drug dealer because I couldn't just watch it, you know what I mean? So I would end up giving them back their money, or I would end up buying the groceries. So it showed me that as much as I was participating in the street life, my heart wasn't built for it. And a lot of people can't say that because for them it's like, oh, what do you mean you're not tough? But it wasn't toughness, because if it was down to me doing something, I would do it. But the guilt and the fact that I had such a deep consciousness, you know, like my conscience would never let me sleep. And there's things that I'm still dealing with till today. I still have nightmares about it till today. So I would never glamorize the streets, but I was heavily involved in some stuff that I'm still trying to get out of. And my only advice, or the only thing I could really tell somebody else who is fascinated or is enamored by the streets is, don't romanticize something that has a 0% success rate. You know what I mean? Like, nobody gets out of this unscathed. You either end up in jail or dead. And if it wasn't prison for me, I was going to end up dead, because I have the mentality of not being a victim, you know? And like I said, there's only two ways this thing goes, because as much as people like to think that society or the government isn't aware of what is going on, it is, you know? And it allows you to play a certain game for numbers. But at the end of the day, once you get to a certain level, everybody gets cut off, right? It's just like weeds. You let a weed grow. It feels like it's doing its thing, but you know once it gets to that level, you're cutting it down, right?
Yeah.
So who's really in control? So for me personally, I was, like I said, I seen the streets from a different level, because I wasn't no little dollar dime bag. Like, I'm moving weight, you know? And with that came a lot of responsibility, and you start to meet a lot of people who are even in a higher level than you know? And when you're talking about organized crime, like, there's rules and there's principles. So it kind of made me laugh that everything I had learned in school, I was still applying it in an environment where they tell you don't need to be educated, right? People think, oh, like, you hop in the streets, it's easy, you smoke weed and you sell drugs. But no, you need to be using psychology. You need to be using philosophy. Like, you're using mathematics. Like, it literally makes you, like, wonder to yourself, why not just get a job?
It's interesting. You're taking those same skills that you used on the streets, and we've seen you apply it in our training, in the discussions, and in a positive way, which is amazing to see that. So, and we tell it to some of the, you know, you've heard us mentoring about it. It's like those same hustling skills and that energy you have that people had on the streets.
Yeah.
When you apply that into a legitimate lifestyle,
Business,
business, into like skilled trades or you know, marketing or whatever, you'll be successful. No, it's just I feel like, again, we talked about this. Some people, and you can talk about this, they didn't have that opportunity in the beginning, right? Or that cheerleader or that mentor to say, hey, listen, there's something else out there for you that's better, right? And so that being said, you talked about it. You said you weren't comfortable with certain things you were doing, so you had that feeling inside. Why don't you elaborate on that a little?
It's fun. Okay, so a lot of people will be like, yo, I go to my 9 to 5 and, like, I feel drained, right? But at the same time, like, when you're driving on the 401, you're not looking over your shoulder wondering if the police are following you from work, right? with me, work doesn't stop. It's not going to stop when I stop selling the drugs. It doesn't end, right? I'm constantly under that pressure. You know, I'm constantly watching over my shoulder. I'm constantly having a feeling of angst. You know what I mean? My anxiety is through the roof. Like, the drug dealer becomes the drug user because of all of these feelings, the stress. So I'm now using just as much drugs. I'm not smoking crack, but I'm popping perks. I'm smoking weed. I'm drinking. So I'm just as intoxicated as the people I'm selling drugs to, right? And so that's the thing that people don't understand is, like, you become what you do, right? Like, and then a lot of people like, oh, okay, well, I'm a garbage man, so does that mean I'm garbage? No, you are a sanitation engineer. I love to call it that. Like, you
that's what it is. That's what it is, right?
You know what I mean? Like, if you are a vital piece of society, and even though your job may be smelly, it may be dirty, you can hold your head held high, because when you get your 2-week paycheck, nobody's coming to take that from you. Nobody's entitled to it. And not even just that, you work so hard for that money, you value it differently. And that's something that I was preaching, because the streets really mess you up. You make $10,000 in a day. You do not have any respect for that $10,000. You know what I'm saying? Somebody came and gave you $1,200. You're there like, damn, this guy's broke. Why don't you buy $2,000 worth of, you know what I'm saying? Like, but in my mind, now that I'm looking at him, like, bro, he just spent $1,200. That's rent. You know what I mean? But in my, like, the way my mentality used to be is like, damn, spend more, like, do more. And I'm not taking in how hard it is to make money. So there's certain things that I look back at it and I'm like, if I had worked a job for 2 years, even though I'm going to make, let's just do the math, right? So let's just do the math. Let's say you get paid average $1,200 every 2 weeks. So you make $2,400 a month, right? So in a year, you're looking at 24, so 24,000, then you're looking at 48. So you're looking at 28,800 in a year, all right? That's poverty line, but let's just go with that. So you're making 28,000. So me thinking that I'm getting ahead because I'm being smart, I'm going to make, okay, I made 100 bands in a week. I'm giving you realistic numbers. I made 100 bands in a week. I do that over the course of a month. I make 400 grand, all right? But now I get caught at the end of that month. So the 400 grand, we're not even going to say I saved all of it, but that's what I made, right? Now they want me to do 2 years to pay for that 400 grand. My earning potential that I just lost, right, can never match up to the money that I sacrificed to get to this position. So I'm trading my freedom for 400 grand. By the time that 2 years goes up, even if I was just working and making 28,000, in 2 years, I would walk away with 50K. Let's just say after tax, I'm walking away with 50K. That 400 grand that I made in a month. Now, once I get out of jail, I've done paid my lawyer. I now have to pay restitution. I'm going to have to pay for wherever I was living, you know what I'm saying, for 2 years, unless I wanted to get evicted, whatever I had going on, all that money is going to take care of that. So when I get out, I am not 400 grand up. I may be down. I may owe more money because not only did I get knocked, I owe the plug, I owe this, I owe that. So when I look at it, it's better for you to make the slow dough over a course of consistent years than for me to go and try to strike the gold rush. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, the respect that I have for what I'm doing is not there because it's too easy. And as much as people like to think that humans were supposed to be seeking comfort, we really reach our maximum potential. And I learned this here as well as on the streets through struggle. Right? It's through struggling that you actually get to where you want to go. So when people are working that 9 to 5 and they're like, yo, it's killing me, it's 40 hours. If you do that for a year, look at not only your work ethic, but look at your character. You know what I'm saying? That means you were waking up early. That means you were sitting in traffic. That means you put in the work to achieve minimal, but you did it every day because you had a goal. And those things are values. And you cannot get that when you're cheating life. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing about life is everything that you cheat, you end up paying it back times 10.
So what you're saying is people doing what you used to do were doing the most dangerous job in the world. And by the end of it, they're actually earning less than minimum wage, if anything. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that you can share that with our listeners and our viewers, because I think there's a lot of social media out there when it shows, and we've seen it all, right? A lot of these rap artists in the community showing bands of money and cars and stuff like that. It's fantasy.
My cousin, he was arrested. It's all public record. He was arrested, right? And I was laughing with him because they caught him with 10,000 like on him. So they caught, it was 5,000 in his trunk and then 5,000 on him. So I was laughing and I'm like, bro, so you trapped all month for the boydom. You know what I'm saying? Bro, you work so hard, you're busting your ass. It's check week. You're like, yeah, I'm getting all those OWs, ODSP. You didn't even bring the money home. Yeah. They got him just as he was leaving. You see what I'm saying? So I was laughing because they're probably all there high five, and that's Christmas bonus. He got arrested December 26th. That's a bonus. You know what I mean? And it's hilarious, but that's what happens. And even when you go to jail, they talk about it. And the realest thing I ever heard was from an Albanian. He was in Lindsay, so he's facing 7 to 15 years for manufacturing carfentanil.
Yeah.
And I got in there. He's like, "Oh, what are you in here for?" So, you know, you want to puff out your chest a lot. I'm like, "Oh, I'm on a gun charge. You know, selling drugs." He's like, "Selling drugs?" He's like, "That's the dumb shit ever." This guy's manufacturing carfentanil. He's like a baby could sell drugs. You know what I mean? He's like, "What are you doing? That's a skill. Like, literally, they could take anyone and replace you. You know what I mean? You think you run your block? You're gone now. They're going to have a Joe or a Jeff running the block." And he's not lying, right? So now you get into jail and you're like, I'm here thinking I'm a big dog. I'm here making all this money. And these guys are telling me, like, that's nothing because you're replaceable, right? The value isn't with you. It's the drugs you're selling. You think the crackhead likes you? He doesn't like you. He likes what you have, right? So once people start to understand that you are robbing yourself of potential because you're limiting yourself to something that is literally replaceable. At any point in time, it's like being a burger flipper at McDonald's now, right? That's not a career, right?
Yeah, it's a job.
It's a job.
So that being said, with the acquaintances that you knew in the past, where do you think? Obviously, no names, but where do you think most of those people are right now?
Oh, I know. I saw them. Most of us are in jail. Like, you know what I mean? And once again, public record, right? Me and both. I have 2 cousins. We're all doing essentially the same thing. We're all fighting cases. You know what I'm saying? And my mom looked at me and she's just like, you know, like, what do they think of our family? You know what I mean? When the police brought it up because I caught my case first and then my cousin caught his case. So then when my cousin's in court, they bring up my name and they're like, you can't have any contact with them. So they already know. So you've already established a name for yourself, or you've already put yourself into a certain box for no reason, right? So a lot of these things now, if I could do things differently, I would tell people, think like honestly about the consequence and the weight of your actions. But that's something that, like I said, they don't teach you in school, not to the degree that it really needs to be taught, that life is serious. And the moment you stop learning, something that I have really acknowledged, the moment you stop learning, you die. Right? So as to where the people that I've acquainted myself with or done certain things with are, where statistics tell you they're going to be. They're either dead or in jail, right? There's no retiring. There's no RSP. There's none of that, right? Like, this is the reality, right? If you really are doing something, you're really making noise, man, something's going to go.
Let's talk about the victims or the users, right? The people that you sold to. Obviously, you know, we know that what drugs do, mentally, physically, even socially. What's your thoughts on that? Let's talk about remorse.
So I'm dealing with that like right now as we speak, because it's crazy. It's been like, so I got arrested August, right? I was in this one particular town for about 2 years. So I got really, really close. And I don't call them, like, we have a slang we call buckets or ruckets. I don't call them that. You know, customers, my friends, and a lot of my acquaintances on roads, they would laugh at me. They're like, "Oh, you think these guys are your friends?" But I really did think they were my friends because they would let me sleep in their house. They would drive me places. You know, if I got the boydom came or whatever, they'd say, "Yo, this is my brother-in-law. You know, this is that." They would vouch for me and put their freedom on the line for me. And at the same time, I knew that they were only in the position that they were in because of their addiction. If you remove that addiction, that person would be the next prime minister, next cabinet minister. They could be anything they wanted to be. But because they have this addiction that's like a monkey on their back, it's like limiting you. It's almost like if you have a hunchback, you can't fully stand up straight. But what would impress me about these people is they're working harder than the people I grew up with. You know what I'm saying? These guys have no jobs. They're going to find a way every day to make $300 to support their habit. You know what I mean? There's people right now that I know. I grew up with you. You're my dog from way when. You will not even get up to go and get $5 to buy a beer. You'd rather sit there and complain and cry about it and wait for someone to bring you a beer. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at certain things, the people that you are diminishing, the people that you are devaluing and saying, yo, these are the bottom rung of society, they're the hardest working people. They're the people that, look, they might not have it, but their word is law. Like, yo, if you give me this, I don't have the money now, I'll figure out a way they will do it. Yeah. Because for them, that's all they have. And so what it taught me was the basics of humanity is not what the person looks like. It's not what the person does. It's who you are. It's who you choose to be every single day. You know what I mean? I had literally, they would cook me food. They would sit there with me, would do barbecues. Like, I would get them flowers. I'd take their kids to the movies. Like, I wasn't a regular drug dealer at all. Because for me, I wasn't selling drugs. I was trying to make money by giving certain things away. But at the same time, I was living in this town. I'm living with these people. I became like them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I joke about this all the time, and people are going to get so hot-headed with this one. But if you are sitting in a room and someone is smoking crack, there's something called secondhand crack smoke. The same way we have secondhand tobacco smoke, the same way we have secondhand weed. Like, do you not think you're getting contact high? So the same crack you're laughing at, oh, he's a crackhead. Bro, you are practically a crackhead. Because not only do you need him, if he's not smoking that shit, you ain't making no money. You need him to smoke. And where are you going to be when he's smoking? Right next to him. So how can I diminish or devalue or demean you when I need you? You know what I'm saying? And that's a reflection of myself. So with these people, I feel a lot of remorse because every month I get a phone call, so-and-so's dead. You know, I just got a phone call from my cousin, and there's a guy. The interesting about him, he's like a 7th generation Canadian. He's a white man. He was a firefighter. He started smoking crack at 55. He died a year after. This was this year. He just died recently. Right? He used to drive me around all the time. And when he would drive me, I'd always get at him. I'd be like, yo, don't smoke while we're driving. Like, just wait till we pull over, then you could smoke. You know? How did he die? He died smoking and driving. He got hit by a transport truck. Yeah. So how do you think I feel? If I know for a fact if I was there, he wouldn't have gotten in a car crash, because that's the number one thing I get on his ass about all the time. Don't smoke and drive. But you see how ironic and how, like, it's almost so messed up for me, because I'm telling him not to smoke and drive, but I'm still selling him crack. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's redundant because I'm telling you good stuff, but I'm not helping you do it. Yeah. So I'm not really a good person. And that's what I had to come to terms with. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Like, we justify our actions because it's like, oh, I'm only doing this for that. But then look at the result. If the end result isn't positive, then what you weren't doing wasn't positive. You know? So for me, to answer your question, I feel a lot of guilt. I feel a lot of remorse because these people would spend their last days with me, you know? Like, there was one woman who spent literally her last day on earth with me. I bought her last meal. It was a bag of chips. Not because, like, that's what I would buy for her, but that's what I gave her money. I said, buy something for yourself. She bought a bag of chips. That's how much she valued herself. She didn't go and buy Subway. She wanted to save the extra money so she could buy more crack. So I said, I'm going to give you crack for free. Take this money to buy food. But in her mind is so conditioned that, yo, if this runs out, at least I have this and I could still buy more. She didn't care about eating. That night, she had run out of the stuff that she usually smokes, so she was looking for something. And it wasn't crack. It was fentanyl. Yeah. She smoked it and she died that night. So I'm calling her in the morning because they're supposed to come pick me up. They're not answering, and she always answers. So I'm calling, I'm worried. You know, and this was one of the defining moments for me. I remember I told my plug, he was the one who introduced me to these people. I was like, yo, this person's not answering. He's like, I don't give a da-da-da-da. So I was like, what the hell? I was genuinely concerned. So I'm calling now. So I'm like, okay, let me call her husband. So I call her husband. He wakes up. He's like, yo, the missus isn't waking up. And I'm like, the missus? Because they have a bunch of cats. So I'm thinking he's talking about a cat. I'm like, just kick it. You know, wake up. And he starts crying. And I'm like, what are you talking about, the missus? And then I say her name. And I'm like, are you talking about her? He's like, yeah, she's cold. She won't wake up. And I'm sweating on the phone. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, shake her, touched her. And she was dead. She died in her sleep. Yeah. And so I look at it like, you spent your last day on earth with me. Your last meal, I bought it for you. And this is all your whole life is. This is like a 60-year-old plus woman. Never had a kid, nothing. You know what I'm saying? So this is what's going on in Canada right now, where people think that, like, all these crackheads are like, you know, maybe like the kind of aggressive ones you see in Sharpen and Jarvis. They're not. It could be your grandma. It could be your aunt. It could be your uncle. They're people who just had a bad break. You know what I mean? So they're like, it could happen to anyone. You know what I mean? Like I just said, the man was a firefighter, right? So these things is showing you that we're having an epidemic in society, and it's not drugs. People are feeling alone, abandoned, and these things can be changed on a daily basis. Just smile at someone. Just say, yo, hey, how are you? You know what I mean? And that's what I learned here is genuine kindness will do a lot more than a bag of crack cocaine. You know, so for me, to answer your question, I do feel a lot of guilt. I feel a lot of remorse, and I'm grateful that I do because it shows me that I'm still human, you know, and something that I will use to instruct other people around me, to tell stories, whatever the case may be, because I've seen it for what it really is. You know, it's not about popping bands on Instagram because you just took somebody's ODSP. You just took somebody's OW. You know what I'm saying? That was the money they had to live. Yeah. So if they're willing to trade the money that they have to live, there's a deeper issue here.
If you can speak to yourself, your younger you, knowing what you know now, do you think you would have gone on the street selling drugs and affecting all these people's lives? Even though, yes, we know that a lot of these folks, they had, you know, emotional issues or physical issues, and they had that dependency. But do you think, knowing what you know now and what you've gone through, would you have been that guy selling or giving that stuff to them?
My situation is different because I made this decision. A lot of these guys that end up selling drugs, and this is literally how it goes. They start off young, you know, someone will give them a pack, tell them it's free, and then from there, they're trapped, right? Mm-hmm. They're working to pay off a debt. It's like an indebted slave, right? Just like what they have in India and all these places right now. Like, it's literally child labor, right? And with my situation, it was different. I did not get put on. I brought my own money to buy work, right? I was in my 20s when I really started doing this. So it was, and on top of that, I'm educated. Like, I went to school, so I know the difference between right and wrong. For me, I think I had given up on society. You know, I had given up on the good. So I stopped wanting to be a beacon of good. You know, I was like, everyone is doing certain things. They're profiting. They're doing well. And I'm here struggling. You know what I mean? At the time, I was working a lot of different jobs, doing forklifting, you know, and everything for me wasn't fulfilling. And I think that's what drives a lot of people to do this, is that they want meaning. So for me, I don't know if there's anything I could have said to my younger self, because certain things happened that made me feel this way, you know, friends dying, you know, family issues. And me personally, I'd already been in certain situations where I almost got shot. So it was like my awakening to the street life was very rude, you know? So there's nothing I don't think I could have said to my younger self that would have changed the direction I went in. But because I'm so stubborn the way I am, I'm grateful, and I don't think I would change anything per se, because I don't think I would have learned, you know, if I didn't feel it. So
what if you had back in your young, before all this stuff happened, if you had a role model, a cheerleader, someone who was there to mentor you, do you think you would have gone down that path?
No, definitely not. My issues stem from disillusionment with my father. So once I had that disillusionment with my father, he wasn't what I thought he was. I no longer looked up to him as a role model. And once that happens, especially for black males, as impressionable as we are, I don't know how it is for other races, but for us, we already feel stigmatized, you know? When I go outside, people already think I'm aggressive. So it was more so now, once that father figure is gone, where he's like, no, you don't have to act like this, I'm going to look at the other people who look like me, and they also don't have fathers, and we're going to come up with what we think is the best way to be a man. And we're going to come up with what we think is the best way to move forward, because we're in disillusionment with what was given to us as a role model. And it's not to say that they themselves, because my dad comes from a polygamous family. So his dad doesn't even know his name. There's 30 kids. He just calls you this one and that one. And I was making a joke before, like, literally our culture is irreplaceable. Like, you don't want to listen, I'll have another kid. Like, I generally don't care, right? So I know why my dad is the way he is. But like I said, these things are hereditary because they're just passed on. So for me, 100%, I know for a fact if I had a positive role model who actually did what he was claiming to do or trying to teach, then it's different. And that's why when I looked at you and Joe, it was, and I said this to Joe, it was very profound for me to see people who are living the life that they claim to live. Because, and I said this to you in the room before, I am very good at reading people. Sometimes I wish I could turn it off. right? That way I could just be dumb and complacent like everybody else, but I can't. Like, as soon as I'm looking at you, I'm reading you. I'm judging everything about you because that was my occupation for a long time. So point being, if I had somebody who showed me how to apply my brain to something else, or show me how to be something else, or to even show me how to accept what I already am, I wouldn't have felt the need to look for that somewhere else. And the people I was looking at knew I was looking for that. So it's so easy to manipulate somebody when you know what they want. And this is the biggest problem we have on the streets with gangs, right? These guys don't want to be in a gang, but who the is going to be their friend? You know what I mean? Who's going to actually show them that love that, oh, yo, broski, what are you saying today, bro? Yo, we're on this, da, 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 da. So you're thinking like, yo, this guy's for me. But he's looking at you like, oh, I got another one. Like, because that's what it is. So we can see it right now. Like, the lack of love, the lack of leadership will make people look for it elsewhere. And those places that you're looking, those people have no blood ties to you. Those people have no genuine loyalty to you. Those people would snake their own mother. So you are putting all your eggs in a shaky basket off rip. But the only reason that you're doing that is because you have no basket of your own.
So do you think through our mentorship and the leadership and care of what we've put you through here, do you think it's going to change your trajectory?
100. It's already changed my trajectory. Right now, like I said, when I called Kayla, if I didn't get into this program, I was gonna like remand myself back into custody. You know what I mean? Because I couldn't do the house arrest. You know, and I joke about it like, oh, I went from my phone. I have 3 phones. Like my stuff I was always doing things. You know, and my mom jokes about it. She's like, I hadn't seen you this long since you were like 18, 17. You know what I mean? Realistically, I was always gone. You know, since 18, I moved out. I was on my own. I lived in Ottawa for 5 years, always doing my own thing. So, like, I don't know, like, genuinely and honestly, like, if it wasn't for this program, like, I would have been on CP24. I know that. You know what I mean? Because I was already having situations where I was like, okay, like, this is, yeah, I'm about to be somebody else. You know, and there's some things that, honestly, Mark, you just can't come back from, you know? So I'm laughing, but genuinely and honestly, like, I was about to go back to jail. Not because of my situation, but because I couldn't handle it anymore. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, I'm at home. I feel like a criminal. I feel like an inmate. I might as well be a real inmate. And then the worst part is, like, my family, specifically my mom, is very innocent. So for me, being at home, I was just feeling so much guilt and shame every time I would look at her. So I was like, you know, I'd rather be around other people who have made their bed like me. And it's easier for me to swallow. But like I said, that's that negative trajectory. So when I got this call and I came here and I literally made the joke with Juju and I saw kindness, like genuine kindness, like I don't think you guys even knew what that was like for me because I was ready to go to the other side. Like I was like, yo, I'm doing 2 years. I'm really going to be that guy then. You know what I mean? And there's no hope for rehabilitation when I come out. There would have been no hope for me at all because I would have been so mad.
Well, you know what? We, and I can speak on behalf of the whole team here, absolutely adore you. I think
I love.
You know that, right? And so we love you. We respect you. And we're beyond proud of you. Even to, like, remember yesterday with the rest of the group, your peers, what do they say about you? They had nothing but praise for you, right? They can see your intelligence. They can see your care, your genuineness. You know, we all know you've come from a dark place, and we always talk about it. And everyone owns up to it, right? Everyone's made bad decisions. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, right? And I could see that in you. We spent a lot of time with you, man.
Yeah, no,
right?
It's love.
And we could see this, right? So I'm going to ask you one last question before we wrap up.
All right.
So where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What does your life look like?
As Joe would say, making 6 figures, you know, focused on my money and my mission. But honestly, I just want to be helping people, genuinely and truthfully. If I could be in some sort of position where I'm helping people, and I always want to be a part of this program, financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it could be, because I want to give back. And this helped me in a way that I don't think I'll ever be able to iterate it to the degree that it deserves. You know, like, this saved my life. And, bro, 5 years from now, if I could be just anywhere near the level of character that you guys have, if I could have that character in 5 years and I could be living a life that is, you know, almost identical to you guys, then I'd be genuinely happy. I'm not one of those people with like dreams of grandeur, of like being famous or rich. Like, I just want peace, you know? And I just want to know that when I do something, it's the right thing, you know? Because for the longest while, and I laugh about it a lot, I've always been the suspect. So I'm ready now to be regular. And wherever I'm at in 5 years, as long as I'm helping people, I'm good.
Well, you know, like we said before, we're going to be on that journey with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We love you, man.
Nah, love.